Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 11. What is the real lesson author? Bitter Days. Machine translation. Liang Yunsheng. It's really you. The voice sounded very happy and quickly approached. Liang Yunsheng turned her head mechanically and saw a thin man wearing a suit and gold-rimmed glasses. Yunsheng, don't you remember me? I'm Xingnuo. Why, have you become invisible now? The man smiled and approached her. Senior Xingnuo. Liang Yunsheng's face suddenly turned pale. She didn't even try to force a smile. Hey, the clothes seem to be very high-end. How did you sneak in? Xingnuo seemed to have seen a bunch of weeds like himself among the elegant flowers. He quickly stuck to it and tried to find some comfort. Who allowed you to touch her? Yu Siyue went up and opened Xingnuo's hand. Please show some respect to girls. Xingnuo was slightly stunned and took a step back. His expression immediately became polite. He handed over his business card and said, "Hello, young master Yu. I don't know if you still remember me. I'm the product manager of the Haohui subsidiary company under Yu family, Xingnuo." Yu Siyue only lowered his long eyelashes and glanced at his business card. He did not even take it. His eyes were full of contempt. Yunsheng is not someone you can call. She's my female companion. I'm sorry that I can't accompany you today. Yue's face darkened. His arrogance was evident. He looked like he was above everyone else. It was completely different from how he looked in front of Liang Yunsheng and Yin Qianchen. After pulling Liang Yunsheng away, Yu Siyue returned to his previous cheeky expression. Does he have a grudge against you? Surprised by Yue's sensitivity, Liang Yunsheng's lips twitched. Why do you say that? Because you seem to hate him. Yu Siyue raised his eyebrows and looked at Liang Yunsheng, obviously waiting for her answer. He bullied me in school before. Liang Yunsheng considered her words and said. Oh my God. This is too disgusting. A grown man bullying a little girl, how shameless. Yu Siyue made an exaggerated face, his big bright eyes darting around. It was obvious that he was planning something bad in his mind. There's still some time before the birthday party. I say, let's go mess with him and help you vent your anger. This isn't very good, right? Although Liang Yunsheng said that it was not very good, she was actually tempted to do it in her heart. Thinking of what Xingnuo had done to her in the past, Liang Yunsheng still felt a surge of anger. If she could really teach him a lesson, it would be something that would make her happy. Yu Siyue raised the corners of his lips and curled his hand. He gestured for Liang Yunsheng to come closer to him. Xingnuo hasn't gone far. Those two eyes are still lingering on you. I'm sure that as soon as we separate, he will come looking for you. There aren't many people in the villa's garden swimming pool. When you go there later, he will come looking for you, and I will be like a mantis stalking a cicada and an oriole following behind. And then Yu Siyue took out a red firecracker from his pocket. First stuff this into his clothes, then push him into the water according to the situation. Come on, you're a young master, why would you have such a strange thing in your pocket? Before Liang Yunsheng could complain, Yu Siyue pushed her out. Yu Siyue was obviously in high spirits and showed great interest in this kind of prank. After Liang Yunsheng and Yu Siyue parted ways, they followed the agreed plan and strolled into the garden alone. As the house was bustling with activity, it was empty outside. As Yu Siyue had expected, after Liang Yunsheng was alone, Xingnuo also followed her. Yunsheng is doing really well. Look at this little face. It's even more delicate than before. Xingnuo had a perverted smile on his face. He approached Liang Yunsheng and tried to touch her face with his hand, but she frowned and pushed him away. Stop pretending. Xingnuo grabbed Liang Yunsheng's wrist. I say, it's easier for a woman to get to the top than a man. There are more things worth selling. Let go of me. Even though Xing Nuo was very skinny, he was still a man. Liang Yunqing could not struggle free. She only felt a nauseating feeling in her stomach. Every inch of her skin that he touched was extremely uncomfortable. It was a terrifying memory, because this time, the encounter came again. At the same time, Liang Yunqing was also very anxious. Why didn't you Siyyue come over yet? You're not going to stand me up at a time like this, are you? At that moment, the power that was restraining Liang Yunqing suddenly disappeared. Bang! Along with the loud sound of collision, there was also fresh blood. After seeing the situation clearly, Liang Yunqing covered her mouth and took 2 steps back. She gasped in shock. Yin Qianqian. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 12. I hate it when people touch my things. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Liang Yunqing looked at the scene in front of her in surprise. Her heart was beating violently in her chest, almost jumping out of her throat. In Liang Yunqing's impression, Yin Qianqian's vicious violence had always lived in the words of others. Speaking of which, Liang Yunqing had never seen the real evil young master. How evil was he? But at this moment, she finally saw the ruthlessness of that person for the first time. Yin Qianqian's left hand was stuck in the pocket of his trousers, and his right hand pressed Xing Nuo's face against the wall beside him. His handsome face was still cold and expressionless, but it was obvious that he was gritting his teeth. Yin Qianqian's chin was slightly raised, and his hair was already falling down. It was a complete reversal of the cold and indifferent image he had just had, and it carried a bit of a ruffian air. At this time, Xing Nuo's face was covered in blood, and it was almost impossible to see his face clearly. Just now, Yin Qianqian's speed was almost as fast as a cheetah, and Liang Yunqing did not see what he had done at all. But from his actions at this moment, it could be seen that Yin Qianqian had just used his hand to smash Xing Nuo's head against the wall to the side. The strength he used was almost unimaginable. Xing Nuo looked as if he had been run over by a car. Oh God! This was completely different from those heroes on TV who saved the damsel in distress. It was simple and crude. But it seemed a little satisfying. Liang Yunqing finally remembered the other person beside her. Her gaze slowly moved over and landed on Siyyue. Liang Yunqing glared at him fiercely and said in a low voice, "This is different from what we agreed on just now, dear. At times like this, you should let Yin Qianqian appear. This is the scariest punishment for someone you hate." Siyyue curled the corners of his lips and revealed a smug smile. Only then did Liang Yunqing realize that it was Siyyue, this little brat, who was behind the whole thing from the start. Yin Qianqian retracted his arm. Xing Nuo had no strength at all and slid down the wall. As if he had just touched something dirty, Yin Qianqian took out a pure white handkerchief from his pocket, wiped it clean, and threw it at Xing Nuo. Liang Yunqing saw Yin Qianqian walking towards her and subconsciously straightened her body, like a soldier waiting for the emperor to inspect her. However, Yin Qianqian just brushed past her. He did not say a word, did not pay attention to what she wanted to say, and even did not raise his eyes to look at her. Liang Yunqing stood rooted to the ground and turned around to look at Yin Qianqian's back. "Hurry up and chase." Siyyue ran over and gently pushed her. "Chase, chase." Oh. Yin Qianqian's steps were very big, and Liang Yunqing had to run until she was panting to catch up with him. Yin Qianqian. Wait for me." Hearing Liang Yunqing's voice, Yin Qianqian stopped but did not turn around to look at her. Liang Yunqing walked to him and tried to smile at him. "I want to say thank you." However, Yin Qianqian's expression did not look good. Although he usually had a number one face most of the time, but For some reason, Liang Yunqing could recognize his number one face when he was angry and his number one face when he was not too angry. What did that man do to you? Yin Qianqian stepped forward and pinched Liang Yunqing's face. Ugh! Liang Yunqing was forced to raise her head. When she was close to Yin Qianqian, she saw the redness in the man's eyes that had not faded. Although I don't like you, I hope you can understand that I, Yin Qianqian, hate it when people touch my things. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 13. What did that man do to you, author? Bitter Days. Machine translation. Although I don't like you very much, I hope you can understand that I, Yin Qianqian, hate it the most when others touch my things. So the things in this sentence. Was he referring to her? When did she become Yin Qianqian's property? Liang Yunqing hesitated because of Yin Qianqian's words. Tell me, what did that man do to you? The pain from her jaw made Liang Yunqing come back to her senses. Personal grudges. Liang Yunqing did not really want to talk to Yin Qianqian right now, let alone talk about Xingnuo and her past. Yin Qianqian was now full of murderous intent, which made people feel very uncomfortable. Personal grudges. Yin Qianqian paused for a moment and continued, everyone is in the room, but you're meeting him, privately in this dark place. His tone sounded very calm, but it was clearly full of dissatisfaction with her. I just. He almost told you Siyue and his little tricks. Although young master you had really set him up this time, it was not very good to expose him just like that. Liang Yunqing, I really underestimated your ability. You've only been here for a few hours, and you've already hooked up with young master you. It's fine if you don't tell me. Do you even like that kind of trash? What hook up? How can you use such words to talk about me? After hearing his words, Liang Yunqing could not help but feel angry, and she forcefully waved his hand away. Just say it. I want to explain the whole thing to you, and then you must apologize to me. I won't explain, I won't explain, I won't explain. I won't listen, I won't listen, I won't listen. Liang Yunqing would never let such a thing happen. Liang Yunqing tried her best to calm herself down. In fact, that was all in the past. It was not a big deal. It would hurt to open up her own scar, but it was better than adding a new wound to the healed scar. Xingnuo and Liang Yunqing went to the same middle school. Liang Yunqing was an excellent student. Although she was not eye-catching, she looked cute. Her big round eyes curved when she smiled. She was very happy, and people liked her at first sight. Xingnuo was an old fox in the school. Even in the second year of high school, he was forced to stay in school because of his poor grades. This year, Xingnuo happened to come to Liang Yunqing's class. He immediately set his eyes on Liang Yunqing, who looked easy to bully. Xingnuo was thin and small, so he and Liang Yunqing became the front and back table. Xingnuo finally found an opportunity to harm Liang Yunqing. Fortunately, she was quick-witted and escaped from his hands. I told the teacher about Xingnuo, and I was even going to call the police, but unexpectedly. His nouveau riche parents used money to buy my father. Uncle Su and Auntie Su shut up. Coincidentally, Uncle Su had an accident at the factory. His leg was injured and he needed someone to take care of him. They thought that this was a scandal that I caused in school, so the last person to drop out of school turned out to be me. Thinking of the past, Liang Yunqing could not help but heat up her eyes, but she tried hard to control her emotions. So, from the beginning of today, it was Yu Siyue's idea. He wanted me to secretly lure him over, then make him suffer and help me vent my anger. I didn't know that Yu Siyue would call you over. Liang Yunqing raised her head and stared at Yin Qianqian with a fearless expression. I have to be upright. Who am I afraid of? Did you just accuse me of seducing that disgusting guy? Apologize to me now. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 14. I was too tired last night. Author. Bitter days. Machine translation. How long has it been since the word apologize appeared in my world? Yin Qianqian felt that he could barely remember. When he was about 3 or 4 years old, his mother was still by his side. What did he do wrong to be asked to say something like apologize? Yin Qianqian had never done anything wrong. Or rather, he had to be right even if it was his fault. However, when he saw the little girl, Liang Yunqing, asking him to apologize with a red face, his heart was slightly moved. What do you want? This was the most meek thing that Yin Qianqian could say. Apologizing means that you're sorry. After saying that, Liang Yunqing waited for Yin Qianqian to speak. However, it was clear that the person would rather stare at her like this than say the word apologize. Then, how about we change the expression? Pretending to be magnanimous, Liang Yunqing touched her chin and said with a flash of inspiration, how about you smile sincerely from the bottom of your heart? Don't sneer like that. This request. Yin Qianqian was really stunned by Liang Yunqing's words. There was another awkward silence. You're done laughing, Yin Qianqian said impatiently. You're done laughing. You didn't even twitch your face. Laugh. How do I make this expression from the bottom of my heart? Yin Qianqian really laughed in his heart. He felt that it was very funny. This Liang Yunqing had crossed his bottom line time and time again. It was not easy for him to endure until now. If it were anyone else who dared to talk to him like that, asking him to apologize, and then asking him to smile, the current situation would probably be even worse than Xingnuo's. Go home. Yin Qianqian grabbed Liang Yunqing's wrist and suddenly turned around. Go home. Liang Yunqing staggered behind him. Wasn't it said that An Ziming would come to pick her up? As if he had already read Liang Yunqing's confusion, Yin Qianqian said indifferently, I'm not in the mood to stay any longer. Yunqing. Yu Siyue followed behind him. Today is my birthday. Only then did Liang Yunqing know that today's birthday banquet was prepared for Yu Siyue. However, how many people came to congratulate him sincerely? This was the so-called upper-class and prestigious family. Liang Yunqing could not help but sigh. Happy birthday. Liang Yunqing revealed a big smile. Before she could finish her words, she was pulled away by Yin Qianqian. Yu Siyue stood in the same spot and looked down at the backs of Liang Yunqing and Yin Qianqian as they left. He replied softly, thank you. I hope we can meet again. Asterisk. This night might have been ordinary for Yin Qianqian, but it felt like a huge adventure for Liang Yunqing. Therefore, after falling asleep, she had a dream. It was a very strange dream, a little scary but also beautiful. In the dream, Liang Yunqing held a red long sword and defeated the terrifying ice-faced Qianqian dragon. She took him as her mount and rode him to dominate the world, beating up the villains who had bullied her. Little Qin did well. Liang Yunqing lowered her head and touched Qianqian's head. Then, she couldn't help but laughing. Then she woke up. It was so strange that Hao Qing did not remind her to wake up today. After all, that housekeeper had always paid the most attention to her work and rest. After washing up, Liang Yunqing went downstairs. Sir said that you were too tired last night, so he let you sleep a little longer. Hao Qing had already stood by the side and prepared breakfast for her. Please don't laugh so weirdly, don't make it sound so evocative. But the key thing was. Is Yin Qianqian at home? Without waiting for Hao Qing to answer, Yin Qianqian walked to the dining table and pulled out a chair to sit down. What? You don't want me to be at home? Yin Qianqian picked up his knife and fork and slowly raised his eyes. But you do need to be nervous, because we really need to settle the matter about last night. We will punish those who deserve punishment. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 15. Punish you for pleasing me. Author. Bitter days. Machine translation. Punish. What do you want to punish her for? This word reminded her of the unfortunate ending of Sheng Nuo last night. Liang Yunqing widened her eyes and revealed an innocent expression that had always appeared on her face ever since she got involved with Yin Qianchen. What on earth had happened to her? Did she sleepwalk last night? If she remembered correctly, wasn't Yin Qianchen the one who had wronged her? The one who should be punished should be young Master Yin himself. Let's not talk about this for now. Breakfast is more important. Yin Qianchen gestured for Liang Yunqing to sit down first. Please, if I don't explain it clearly, I won't be able to have a good breakfast at all. Although she thought so, Liang Yunqing tried her best to remain calm. It was just Yin Qianchen. At worst, she would just have to deal with whatever came her way. It was more important to fill her stomach. Originally, Liang Yunqing had been filling her stomach with soy milk, youtiao, eggs, and biscuits at home every day. Ever since she lived with Yin Qianchen, it had become milk, fried eggs, bacon, and oatmeal. Fortunately, she had her favorite puffs. Otherwise, such a monotonous Western-style breakfast. It was really unbearable. Liang Yunqing cut off a fried egg and tried to put it into her mouth with elegant movements. Wait. Before Liang Yunqing could put a mouthful of food into her mouth, she froze because of Yin Qianchen's voice. Then, there was the sound of a chair rubbing against the ground. Yin Qianchen stood up and came to her side. He reached out his hand to Hao Cheng, who respectfully handed her 2 thick books. Before Liang Yunqing could react, Yin Qianchen placed the 2 books on her head and straightened her body. You can start eating now. How am I supposed to eat this? Liang Yunqing did not dare to move her neck anymore. She tried her best to keep her shoulders flat and her back straight. Although she had only added 2 books, she looked more dignified when she held them. Eating etiquette is not just about the mouth. Yin Qianchen sat down opposite Liang Yunqing and touched his lips with the silver fork in his hand. Liang Yunqing felt awkward eating with the books on her head. She only managed to have a bite after trembling in fear. It was indeed not easy to be a socialite. Looking at Liang Yunqing's obedient actions and her aggrieved yet patient expression, Yin Qianchen's mood suddenly improved. You must do this every day and every meal from now on. I look forward to your results in a month's time. Liang Yunqing wished she could slap Yin Qianchen in the face with a book on the spot. Of course, she did not. She did not want Yin Qianchen to look down on her. Liang Yunqing maintained a straight back posture and finished all her breakfast. Surprisingly, she felt pretty good. As she swallowed the last mouthful of cream puff, she saw the long arm opposite her pushing another puff in front of her. Too sweet. Making 2 servings if she didn't like it. Liang Yunqing didn't care so much and didn't stand on ceremony with him. She directly picked it up and ate it. Now, let's calculate the account for last night. Yin Qianchen looked at Liang Yunqing, folded his hands, and put them on the table holding his chin. He said, eavesdropping on my conversation with someone, meeting another man, putting your arm around young Master Yu's shoulder, becoming someone else's female companion, almost getting molested. You've committed quite a number of crimes. You've done so many things that made me unhappy. Shouldn't you do something to please me now? Woo! Liang Yunqing almost choked on her puff. You like sweets very much. Yin Qianchen took out a ball-shaped chocolate from the snack box at the side and reached out to remove the book on her head. His clean and slender fingertips held the round chocolate ball and pressed it close to her soft lips. Liang Yunqing stared at him in a daze. As he moved, she slowly opened her little red mouth and held the chocolate in her mouth. This is... What are you doing? Liang Yunqing blinked her eyes. In a daze. Yin Qianchen gave Liang Yunqing these 3 words in his heart. It's because you're so dumb that people want to bully you even more. Yin Qianchen bent down and continued to push the chocolate ball. Only this time, he didn't use his fingers. Chapter 16 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 16. Taking the First Kiss by Force. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Liang Yunqing looked at Yin Qianqian's enlarged face in shock and subconsciously wanted to avoid him. Liang Yunqing really didn't know what a girl needed to do to please a man. The word please was too evocative. But no matter what, the current situation was something she had not expected. Liang Yunqing's body kept retreating, but Yin Qianqian held the back of her head and held her down, unable to move. After the distance between lips became zero, the dark chocolate naturally slipped into Liang Yunqing's mouth. She was extremely embarrassed. Ever since she was born, she had never had such intimate contact with anyone. Yes, not even her family. The parents of the Su family valued sons over daughters. They had always treated their eldest son as their treasure, and this little daughter of hers was like grass. Since young, she had been fed sugar and clothed by her elder brother. Liang Yunqing did not hate anyone. It was only until father and mother Su threw her into the Liang family without giving her an explanation. Only then did she realize that people could be so heartless. She originally thought that even if the Su family did not love her from the bottom of their hearts for so many years, they should at least have developed feelings for her over time. However, they did not. They did not have love. Therefore, they did not even give her a hug. Because they did not love her, they would not act intimately. Liang Yunqing tried to push Yin Qianqian away with her two small hands, but the person who leaned over was like a big tree that could not be moved. She naively thought that this was the end, but in fact, it was just the beginning. Liang Yunqing was too inexperienced and was not a match for Yin Qianqian. The chocolate ball kept spinning in her mouth, invading every inch of her soft mouth. The chocolate ball slowly melted. Because it was dark chocolate, it was not too sweet. The combination of the sweetness and bitterness with Liang Yunqing's youthfulness had a special and wonderful taste. Even Yin Qianqian had lost control. Humph. Yin Qianqian slowly let go of her until the entire chocolate was melted in their mouths. Liang Yunqing's small face was flushed red at this moment, angrily waiting for her to succeed. What are you doing? This time, she really picked up the book and smashed it heavily on Yin Qianqian's face. Yin Qianqian tilted his head. Although he had basically dodged it, the corner of the book still left a red mark on his face. Liang Yunqing did not expect that she could really hit him and even hit his face. She paused for a moment. We agreed on the punishment for you. Yin Qianqian said indifferently, as if he was not too angry. Liang Yunqing looked up at Yin Qianqian and saw that the wound on the side of his face was red. Her heart trembled and she felt a faint sense of guilt and fear. However, on second thought, she was the victim. This was her first kiss. It was actually snatched away by an inexplicable man. You can punish me in any way you want. Why did you do this? I think it's okay to kiss your fiancé. Yes, how could he discuss such a principle with this self-centered person? Yin Qianqian always had his own way of thinking about things. I'm not. Don't think that you're easy to fool just because you're young. You just like to see me embarrassed. Yes, perhaps what she cared about was never whether she kissed or not. She just hated the feeling of being played by others. If Yin Qianqian really kissed her involuntarily because he liked her, Liang Yunqing would not be so sad even if she did not have feelings for him. But unfortunately, things were not like that. Chapter 17. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 17. Cultivate a good relationship with your fiancé. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Yin Qianqian kissed her and only teased her like he was teasing a little pet. I'm sorry, I lost control. Liang Yunqing stood up and ran back to her room without looking back. Yin Qianqian touched his face and watched Liang Yunqing run upstairs. He stood there thinking about something. After a moment, he turned around and said to Hao Qing beside him, "Help me find the sunglasses I used last time." He had been hurt twice. Although the wounds were small, they were all on his face. Other than Liang Yunsheng, there was probably no one else who could throw a tantrum at him like this. Liang Yunsheng locked herself in the room. One moment, she felt that Yin Qianqian was really too much, and the next moment, she felt that she was making a mountain out of a molehill. If her reaction was so intense, would Yin Qianqian treat her as an ignorant kid? Also, should she go out of the room? Is Yin Qianqian still outside? If he goes out, what should I say to him? In short, the atmosphere seemed to have become awkward. Fortunately, someone appeared at the right time, which dispelled Liang Yunsheng's doubts. Knock, knock, knock. There were 3 polite knocks on the door. Liang Yunsheng opened the door and saw the smiling Hao Qing standing outside. Miss Yunsheng, are you still angry? Liang Yunsheng's face, which had returned to normal, turned red again. Only then did she remember that when they kissed just now, it was Mr. Hao Qing who had watched the whole process. Miss Yunsheng, don't mind him too much. Although he looks aggressive and shrewd all day long, he actually has no experience in love. This has nothing to do with me. Liang Yunsheng blinked her big eyes and looked at Hao Qing in confusion. L.RG, I can actually feel that since Miss Yunsheng moved in, Mr. is very happy with you. What do you mean by being with me? Anyway, we are not going to be in love. She would not have such thoughts about this terrifying person. Although she did not know why Yin Qianqian insisted on marrying into the Liang family, Liang Yunsheng remembered clearly that he had already mentioned it to the Liang family before he knew her, so it should have nothing to do with her. Whether it's true or not, as a servant who cares about his master, I hope that you can spend more time with Mr. on account that Hao Qing has always taken care of you. You don't have to say that. I will. In fact, she naturally hoped that Yin Qianqian would be happier. Regardless of whether he was an evil person who feared everyone, at least he was the only person who stood up for her when she was alone and helpless. He said that he wanted to help her. By the way, Sir said that you can take a day off today. You can go anywhere you want. The car is already parked outside. Really? It was so wonderful to not have to learn all those messy things at home. Liang Yunsheng was like a little bird that had come out of its cage. She changed her clothes and flew out of the villa happily. She did not even care that she did not see Yin Qianqian. However, when she opened the car door, Yin Qianqian. The man was wearing a white casual suit that was different from his usual formal attire. He wore a light brown Gucci sunglasses on his face. His bangs were not combed, but they were casually scattered in front of his forehead, making him look much gentler. Get in the car. Liang Yunsheng still did not understand what he was trying to do. She stood where she was and did not understand. Didn't we agree that I can go anywhere? Yes, but we did not say that I cannot follow. Yin Qianqian's first sentence made Liang Yunsheng jump in anger, but the latter sentence made her confused. You've probably forgotten the most important purpose of staying with me. Yin Qianqian finally turned his face slightly and looked at Liang Yunsheng. Purpose? To cultivate a relationship with your fiancé. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 18. The Hell on Earth That You Have Never Seen. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Cultivate a relationship with your fiancé. Liang Yunsheng was completely stunned by this sentence. She remembered that she had just completely denied this character of hers. However, Yin Qianqian's words clearly had a good intention, so she could not refute him. Are we going to the Liang family, or the Su family? As if he had predicted her thoughts, Yin Qianqian spoke first. Unfortunately, he had seen through her intentions, but he did not know what she was really thinking. Neither. Liang Yunsheng pursed her lips, tilted her head, and smiled. Uncle Driver, drive to number 35 North Bridge Street, the delicious beef noodle restaurant on the left of the big red door. Although Yin Qianqian would not pursue the reason for Liang Yunsheng's request, he could not help but ask. Did you really decide to stay at this place on our first date? Don't take the initiative to define this as a date, okay? You were the one who insisted on coming along. Shouldn't a guy be the one who decides everything on his own initiative, watching the sunrise, the sunset, and the stars at night? 9,999 roses, candle at dinner. Liang Yunqing felt much better after being defeated. A date, is that so? Yin Qianqian rarely showed a confused tone. The driver, who was not afraid of being fired, also joined in the fun. Boss, that's right. After getting an affirmative answer, Yin Qianqian frowned thoughtfully and nodded. Liang Yunqing did not have any feelings for the Liang family, let alone being pushed out of the door by them in the end. As for the Su family, although she still had memories in her heart, they were mostly memories. The melancholy and longing for the past had long been extinguished in her heart. It was unbelievable that Liang Yunqing still cared about her past self. It was actually an unknown noodle shop. That was where she worked. Brother and sister Wang, the couple from the noodle shop, took special care of her. They even proposed to sponsor her to go back to school. However, she was too afraid that she would not be able to repay such a big favor, so she politely refused. She was tricked by the Su family's parents to go to the Liang family, so she didn't even have time to leave her job here. Oh, thank God. Yunqing, your brother and I have been worried about you recently, so we suddenly stopped coming to work. Sorry to make you worry. While Liang Yunqing and sister Wang were chatting, Yin Qianqian also walked into the noodle shop and looked at the small shop from top to bottom. However, the place was very small, so he felt bored after walking around for a while, so he naturally stood behind Liang Yunqing. This is Yunqing's boyfriend. Auntie Wang seemed to have discovered a new continent, and she revealed the gossipy expression that middle-aged women usually had. He's so tall and handsome. In this face-oriented world, as long as one was good-looking, even if one was expressionless, they would still be loved. Auntie Wang, no. Liang Yunqing was a little embarrassed. She thought about it, but she didn't know how to explain Yin Qianqian's identity. Yes, she's mine. Probably hearing Liang Yunqing's denial, Yin Qianqian quickly leaned over and even reached out to stop her from leaning into his arms, looking domineering. Quick, sit, sit, sit. Auntie Wang will treat you to noodles today. Auntie Wang beamed with joy. No need to be busy. Liang Yunqing did not stop Auntie Wang, who was suddenly excited. The point was, wouldn't Yin Qianqian, the eldest young master, dislike this kind of dirty and messy small restaurant? To Liang Yunqing's surprise, not only did Yin Qianqian sit down, but he also ate a bowl of noodles with relish. I didn't expect you to eat. Liang Yunqing leaned in front of him and said in a low voice. Yin Qianqian slightly raised his eyelids. If this kind of food is considered bad, then it would be hell on earth when you are so hungry that you can only snatch leftovers from wild dogs. He was clearly saying these words with no expression, but for some reason, Liang Yunqing felt an unconcealable hostility from his body the moment he said these words. Could the person Yin Qianqian was talking about be himself? Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 19. Are you declaring ownership? Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. The days of snatching leftovers from wild dogs. What had Yin Qianqian experienced? Liang Yunqing looked at the person in front of her. For a moment, she really wanted to know about his past. She wanted to know what kind of things he had encountered and what kind of people he had met. But she still did not ask. She knew that now was not the time for Yin to tell her everything. To put it bluntly, she was not one of them. Oh right, Yunqing. Recently, someone called Su Qihang often came to look for you. I heard that his surname is Su too, so I paid attention to him. In Auntie Wang's heart, her surname was still Su. Su Qihang. The eldest son of the Su family. Liang Yunqing felt a little strange. Since young, they were not close because of the difference in treatment between their parents. She herself had dropped out of school to work at home, but Su Qihang, who had average grades, had been sent abroad by her parents to study. She was not a person without feelings. Every time she thought of the good things Su Qihang had eaten abroad for a month to nourish his brain and strengthen his body, she would be able to persevere. After finishing high school, she still felt some hatred in her heart. But why did he come to look for her? Liang Yunqing couldn't figure it out. She couldn't find any reason at all. It couldn't be that he came to look for her to ask for the upbringing money that the Su family had raised her for so many years, right? Just like that, she walked out of the noodle shop with confusion. "Come back to the Liang family with me," Yin Qianqian said and got into the car. "I don't really want to go." Since she had escaped from there, she naturally didn't want to go back. Liang Yunqing sat beside Yin Qianqian. "What I said wasn't a question," Yin Qianqian said coldly. Liang Yunqing was stunned for a moment. She almost forgot his nature because of the warmth she felt just now. A cold person like Yin Qianqian would never initiate a marriage for the sake of marriage. He could only have other motives. It was obvious that he wanted to use the Liang family. Naturally, he did not care about his feelings. Liang Yunqing decided to remain silent and comply with Yin Qianqian's request. The car was parked at the Liang family home. The same car was parked at the same place. Liang Yunqing vaguely remembered the first time she met Yin Qianqian. After entering the house, the Liang family was obviously prepared. Liang Yunqing thought that Yin Qianqian had already informed the Liang family that they would come over. For some reason, Liang Yunqing felt that she had been schemed against. She was slightly disappointed, but she felt that she was being unreasonable. What was there to be disappointed about? But soon, Liang Yunqing did not have the mood to think about this because there was another man sitting in the living room of the Liang family. Yunqing. A white shirt and gray trousers. Although simple, they were all brand names. The man rushed to Liang Yunqing in excitement. Liang Yunqing was shocked by his rudeness. Before she could dodge, he hugged her tightly in his arms. "Yunqing. Come back with me." As soon as the man finished speaking, Liang Yunqing felt a gust of wind brush past her face. The man who was hugging her was beaten back a few steps. "No." Liang Yunqing quickly hugged Yin Qianqian's arm. She knew that with his temper, he would not stop until the man stood up. "He is, brother." Su Qihang stood where he was and wiped the wound on the corner of his lips. His phoenix-like eyes were fierce. "You are Yin Qianqian." Yin Qianqian did not care about Su Qihang's words. He did not even bother to look at him from the corner of his eyes. He just pulled Liang Yunqing behind him and did not allow the two of them to have any further contact. Seeing that Su Qihang ignored him, Su Qihang rushed forward unhappily and blocked in front of Yin Qianqian. "Are you declaring your ownership?" Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 20. She belonged to me in the first place. Author. Bitter Days. Machine translation. Announce. Yin Qianqian still didn't spare Su Qihang a glance. He said softly through his nose, "She belonged to me in the first place." What's going on? Liang's parents, who were standing next to him, were shocked by what had just happened. Although they had always heard that Yin Qianqian was a vicious person, they had never seen him with their own eyes. They really didn't expect that it would be like this. Moreover, he would disregard the situation and act recklessly. He even dared to fight in front of them. Or he didn't need to care about the Liang family at all. Ah. It's nothing. It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Liang Yunqing quickly stepped forward to smooth things over. She tiptoed and raised her head to get close to Yin Qianqian's face. She said in a low voice, "Don't be too sensitive. He's the brother of the Su family." If you're a man, don't come near me and beat him up. No. Yin Qianshen's face still didn't look good. It was unknown whether it was because Liang Yunsheng was defending Su Qihang or because of her last sentence. What do you mean by no? Liang Yunsheng was puzzled by Yin Qianshen's simple answer. I mean, it's not that I didn't hit him for you. I just didn't like him, Yin Qianshen explained patiently. Was it really like that? Liang Yunsheng blinked and didn't continue. She knew herself well and knew that Yin Qianshen was indeed unhappy, but that unhappiness was only because of everything Liang Yunsheng remembered that Yin Qianshen had said, my things, at the birthday party. That was the meaning of it. It was like if someone took something that belonged to them, even if they didn't like it, they would find that person extremely annoying. Brother. Su Qihang, are you okay? Liang Yunsheng didn't know how to face Su Qihang, and she tried her best to smile. She and Su Qihang had a good relationship when they were young and ignorant. He was also a protective brother, but as time passed, Liang Yunsheng sensed her parents' preference, so she naturally couldn't be close to Su Qihang. At this time, Su Qihang also sensed something and also distanced himself from her. After that, the siblings became polite strangers. Why don't we, let the brother and sister catch up? Young Master Yin, don't we have something important to discuss? Liang Yaoxing walked to Yin Qianshen's side and said with a smile. Yin Qianshen glanced at Liang Yunsheng and didn't say anything. He directly left her alone and entered the study room with Liang Yaoxing. Alright then, she will. Think about how to catch up with Su Qihang about this old thing. Yunsheng. The two of them sat opposite each other. The way Su Qihang looked at Liang Yunsheng made her very uncomfortable. This was too strange. Why did Su Qihang's personality change like a different person? L.RG, aren't you in country M? Why? Why don't you call me brother? Even if we're not related by blood, I can still be your brother. Okay. Brother. Are you okay with your injury? Liang Yunsheng did not want to talk to him, but she could not refuse him. Su Qihang touched his face when he heard Liang Yunsheng's words. He waved his hand to show that he did not care. When I was in country M, I often fought with those black devils. If I wasn't stronger, I would have died a long time ago. What Su Qihang said should be the truth. Yin Qianshen's strength was great. When she saw him smash Xing Nua's face, she knew that although Su Qihang's face was also badly beaten, he was already very strong if he could stand still. I came back to China this time to look for you. Su Qihang suddenly held Liang Yunsheng's small white hands that were folded on her legs.